Raymond married a woman solely because of her large hips, unaware that she was dull and lacked the ability to manage a home. His friends warned him about her, but he, blinded by his lust for her, kept making excuses. However, something serious eventually happened that will shock you. Kindly subscribe to this channel to access our latest Nollywood movies. If you've watched this movie before, there are hidden secrets and perspectives you'll discover that you never knew. The movie begins with Raymond sitting with his friends in his living room, watching TV. He tells them about the kind of woman he desires, one with large hips. He believes such a woman can erase all his troubles after a hard day at work. His friends respond, jokingly, that while the trouble may disappear for a while, it will surely return the next day. Later that day, Raymond receives a call from his mother, who urges him to get married. He insists that he hasn't found the type of woman he's looking for yet, one with large hips, but promises to marry as soon as he finds her. The following day, Raymond is seated with his friends, describing the woman of his dreams. He asks them to help him find a woman with these features. Although they tease him, asking if they are now matchmakers, they humor him. That same day, Raymond and his friends are at his house, searching online for a beautiful woman to set him up with. However, Raymond dismisses all the options, claiming they aren't beautiful because they lack the hips he desires. Despite his friends trying to persuade him otherwise, he remains adamant, and they all laugh and move on. Later, one of Raymond's friends brings a lady to meet him. Raymond, upon seeing her, asks her to stand up so he can get a proper look at her. After assessing her, he rudely remarks that his friend has brought him a well-behaved stick to marry. The lady feels insulted and leaves angrily, with Raymond's friend running after her to apologize. That evening, as Raymond and his friends walk and chat, a beautiful woman with large hips passes by. Raymond is mesmerized and can't stop staring. When his friends nudge him to snap out of it, he describes her as an angel who escaped from heaven. He convinces his friend to approach her on his behalf. Although hesitant at first, his friend agrees. When Raymond's friend talks to the woman, she expresses interest in Raymond, even though she has never met him. She reasons that since Raymond likes her, she likes him too. Confused by her naive response, Raymond's friend collects her phone number. Raymond's friend returns and warns him about how dull and naive the woman, ISOYIP, is. But Raymond, blinded by his lust for her, brushes off the warning. Frustrated, his friend leaves. That night, ISOYIP tells her sister about the man who proposed on behalf of his friend. Her sister rebukes her, disapproves of the situation, and warns her about her naivety. ISOYIP, however, claims she doesn't understand her sister's high grammar, leaving her sister upset. Meanwhile, at Raymond's house, he insists that his friend call ISOYIP, despite the friend's disapproval. Eventually, the friend gives in and calls her, inviting her to visit Raymond's house. ISOYIP agrees, despite her sister's skepticism. Her sister advises her to bring someone along if she feels unsure, but ISOYIP ignores the advice and decides to go. When ISOYIP arrives at Raymond's house, the two sit in awkward silence, staring at each other until Raymond's friend breaks the tension. After she leaves, Raymond's friend scolds him for proposing to her without taking the time to get to know her. Raymond dismisses the criticism, saying he loves her solely because of her hips. That evening, when ISOYIP gets home, her sister scolds her again for agreeing to marry someone she barely knows. ISOYIP remains unconcerned, and her sister storms off in frustration. The following week, Raymond and ISOYIP get married. Initially, everything seems to go well, and everyone gets along. The day after the wedding, Raymond's friends visit him at his house. They tease him about being a married man now. Raymond laughs and chats with them until his wife walks into the living room and takes him away. He excuses himself, asking his friends to make themselves comfortable. After a while, Raymond returned to the living room, claiming there was heat everywhere and that he was hungry. His friends teased him, and shortly after, his wife came in, also claiming she was hungry. Raymond insisted she prepare a meal, but she seemed surprised and confused, not knowing it was her responsibility. He explained it to her, and she reluctantly went to the kitchen. Once in the kitchen, unsure of what to do, she put a large portion of rice on the fire. After a while, the rice boiled over, spilling everywhere. She called for Raymond and his friends to come to the kitchen, where they discovered she had used an excessive amount of rice. it became clear she didn't know how to cook. That same day, Raymond's mother and his friends spoke to him about his wife. They urged him to caution her, but Raymond made excuses for her. However, he eventually agreed to talk to her. When he went to their room to address the issue, he was distracted by her large hips and ended up sleeping with her instead. Back in the living room, Raymond's friends were surprised to hear strange noises coming from their room. When Raymond returned, looking exhausted, he claimed he went to caution her, but ended up being cautioned himself. His wife then came in, sat on his lap, and they joked about their private life. Raymond's mother disapproved and advised them to take things seriously. After a while, she left, followed by Raymond's friends. The next day, Raymond's wife was dancing in the living room when his mother walked in and rebuked her for her nonchalant attitude, insisting she clean the house. Later, when Raymond's wife tried to clean the smart TV with a wet rag, his mother stopped her and explained that a dry rag should be used instead. That evening, Raymond's mother approached him while he was working on his laptop. She suggested that his wife should become more productive and contribute to their marriage. She advised him to empower her so she could become a good role model for their future children. Raymond, however, dismissed her concerns, claiming his businesses were flourishing and he didn't need much from his wife. His mother insisted and then left. The following day, Raymond's wife's sister advised her to find something meaningful to do as a married woman, but she dismissed the suggestion, saying her husband was wealthy and she didn't want the stress. Later, Raymond's mother also gave her similar advice. That night, Raymond came home hungry, and his wife prepared spaghetti with eggs, but the meal was poorly made. He was displeased by its unattractive appearance, but pretended otherwise. However, his wife insisted he touch her hips while eating, and later, she took him upstairs for the real food. The next day, Raymond's wife was singing and having fun in the living room when his mother informed her that her phone was ringing. She answered the call, which was from her husband. That same day, Raymond vented his frustration to his friends about how his wife had embarrassed him at a meeting he invited her to. His friends reminded him of their earlier warnings and criticized her lack of intelligence. However, Raymond defended her, making excuses. The following day, Raymond's wife was sweeping the living room and started burning papers she found lying around. Raymond later asked his mother about some important documents, and she told him that his wife had burned them. Raymond rushed to the scene and discovered his wife had indeed burned his important papers. He was furious and insulted her, leaving her in tears. Raymond's mother blamed him for the situation. That same day, Raymond's wife went to her sister's house. Her sister rebuked her, explaining that marriage isn't just about pleasure, but also about building a healthy home. Raymond later called her sister to ask about his wife's whereabouts. When his wife returned home, she expressed her hurt over his harsh words and said she wanted their marriage to work. Raymond's mother encouraged her, giving her advice on how to build a better marriage. That night, Raymond's wife apologized to him in bed, promising to change and become a better wife. Raymond was impressed and accepted her apology. The next day, Raymond hired a tutor to teach his wife how to read and write. She quickly began to improve. Meanwhile, Raymond's mother taught her how to cook properly. Raymond noticed her efforts and commended her for her determination to improve. One night, as his wife was studying, she fell asleep, and Raymond gently carried her to bed. The following week, Raymond, his friends, and his mother gathered in the living room to celebrate his wife's birthday. She thanked her husband for all his support and spoke confidently in proper English. Raymond also appreciated her for working hard to better herself. They all enjoyed the celebration together. So guys, I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from this Nollywood movie. Kindly subscribe to this channel for more of our latest Nollywood movies.